Hello, boys. Today we gonna learn how to make jiggle cloth physics in a stupid way like I do. It can be done for any model. The main reason for the method I will show is because it has more advantages over another method. So let's get started. The model is cut in half only for tutorial. The whole process would be the same. First of all, we need to close all holes in model. This needs to make good collision model for any liquid or sometimes when you would want to simulate cloth over body that being affected by jiggle sim, which we doing in this tutorial. Go to edit mode and select vertices that needs to be closed. After selecting first vertex, holding Alt Shift and click another one, you can select circle, but that not always work when the shape is having sharp corners. So we select vertices by holding Control. It selects vertices by a path between them. After selecting, press F3 and type grid fill to fill a hole with new faces. In drop-down menu appeared after using modifier, you can rotate grid to make good result. The new faces should not clip into each other because it would cause collision problem on simulations. And for best result, there should be no sharp corners on collision in places where it will interact with cloth simulation. Let's go to the next hole. This time selecting loop edge did well. The head has uneven amount of vertices, so we leave it as is. Let's make jiggle mesh. Select mesh, press Shift D to duplicate it. Disable main one in viewport. Disabled objects are not being calculated by viewport, which makes it faster response. If you don't see them, they are turnable in filter menu of outliner. Go to edit mode and select vertices around our future mesh. It is better to leave few layers more of vertices for jiggle mesh. Press X to delete selected vertices, then select any other vertex, and click Ctrl L to select everything connected to him. Hold Z and switch to wireframe mode to see any other unneeded vertices. Select them and delete them by pressing X. We have a base. Now we need to close mesh for better cloth simulation. Not sure how about now, but in older version unclosed mesh were hard to stabilize any inflation while simulating, so it's better to not leave this step. Select all vertices on the edge and press E to extrude them. By pressing Z, X, or Y after extrusion, you can set the axis they will move. Also, you can type the number on numpad to move selected vertices by desired distance. We don't need to get them far away, just a bit back. Then again, fill it with grid by pressing F3. Click Ctrl+ on numpad to select one more layer of vertices around your selection. Create new vertex group. Make sure the weight is 1 and press assign. That would be the group for vertices that will always stay one place during cloth simulation. It should be red if you switch to weight paint. Even that's enough. My research has driven me to conclusion that pinning should be in a bit different way. Copy vertex group. Go back to edit mode and click Ctrl-I to invert selection. Then, assign other vertices by 0.75. This would help mesh to hold better its initial form during simulation and makes mesh act better during it. Don't forget to click Assign button. This button turns off showing only one selected shape key. It's handy when you need to set mesh in one particular shape, but you don't want to set every other shape keys to 0. Now let's make the collision model for our simulation. This needs to provide quality collision for our cloth simulation because it must have few important tweaks. If you look at the nails on a model, it has a cavity between nail and finger. In future, this would corrupt the simulation as the simulation would start to stuck there, so we need to get rid of the nails. Again, we selecting base mesh and duplicating it by clicking Shift-D. Renaming it and turn off everything we don't need for now. You can select faces one by one, or just as me select some in the middle, and expand selection by pressing Shift and plus on numpad. Then, as previous, select the hole in grid fillet. Sometimes clicking simple bending gives more smooth result. That's we need on collision model. As smoother it is, as better collision being calculated. Repeat with other nails on hands and toes. The same we can do with the mouth and other unneeded parts. If whole mesh being selected after clicking Ctrl L, that means the parts are connected. Select them as faces and delete. You can do the same with the eyes, but I hope you got the idea. Now we need to push chest inside to make sure our simulation does not touch our collision model where it's not needed. Just make new shape key and use grab brush in sculpt mode. There's no need to be very accurate, as this place would never do any job. But it can't touch our simulation to prevent any instabilities, even if it touches pinned vertices. But also speed up simulation as even pinned vertices being calculated on collision. Now go back to a base mesh. Make new vertex group of vertices that will be driven from our cloth simulation. Go to edit mode of your body mesh and select vertices around your cloth simulation mesh. Hide them by pressing H, then select any chest vertex and Ctrl L and assign vertices to our deform group. Press Alt H to unhide vertices back. Now the most hard part. We need to make our mesh larger than them apart those vertices that would be driven by our simulation. As you can see now, the vertices are in same position, but the simulation mesh must cover them. And the only rule that every vertex must be as close as possible to his part, because when we will want to make big simulation, the vertices would have bigger distance. Because when they move from initial state, the distance between them would scale also instead of being offset. In other words, the volume of simulation on main body would be smaller than actual simulation. So as closer vertices would be to each other on the moment of applying mesh, the more it's better to end result. There's few ways to achieve this. Manually click every vertex and move it along normal. Because Blender is still beta and can't move multiple vertices along their normals at once. Use sculpt mode to slightly inflate them. And use new method I've just discovered not long ago, which I would show. First of all, I decided to get rid of nasty base shape and shape that fixed it. It's not effect tutorial process. It's just to make sure that all faces will go where I need for future step. Because now many vertices are just overlapping each other. We need to apply shape key to a base shape. Luckily, Blender has such function. Go to edit mode. Select all vertices and base shape key. Press F3 and search for blend from shape. In drop-down menu, select shape key you want to apply and turn off add option. Now we can delete old shape key and apply the same thing to base mesh. Now go to edit mode. Add new shape key to not mess base shape. Make sure you set gizmo to normal. Select all faces, click Alt-E and choose extrude faces along normal. Apply it, and you will get drop-down menu where you can set the distance. As said previously, we need as less distance between neighbor vertices as we can. If your camera clipping annoys you, you can lever clip distance by pressing N button and navigate to View tab. When you're ready, click Ctrl-I to invert selection, press X and choose Delete Faces. That because extrusion is duplicating faces, and we don't need double geometry. Also, sometimes extruded faces can be inverted. This would lead to complete wrong cloth simulation, so make sure everything is okay. Go to Overlay menu and check Face Orientation option. Everything should be blue. If your mesh is red, you need to go Edit mode. Select all faces and search for Flip Normal option. Now we finally can bind out mesh to Physics 1. Go to Modifiers, select Mesh to Form, choose our cloth mesh, select Vertex Group, and click Bind. After hiding our cloth mesh, everything should be fine. If some vertices does not follow cloth mesh, that's mean they are not covered by a cloth mesh. To fix this, you need to unbind main mesh, go to Edit mode of cloth mesh and move vertices a bit more far, and then bind again. To fix sharp edges, just smooth weight paint, or remove them by painting them with 0 weight. When everything is perfect, bind mesh with power of 6. This would took much longer time, but at the end you will get way much better binding result. The hardest part is over. The only problem left is to fix wrong deformation. Luckily for you, you don't need to lose brain cells, because I've lost mine once for you. This caused by Mesh Deform modifier. It seems like vertices coordinates are stacking from cloth mesh with main mesh, and we got this result. Disabling armature from cloth mesh solves the problem. But the cloth mesh stays one place, and this is not acceptable for cloth simulation because it must follow our model and collisions. So we must attach our cloth mesh to armature with a different way. Delete armature as it doesn't work for us. Find the bone that corresponds to the desired part of the body. In our case is a chest. The easiest way to do that is to check where our breastbone's being connected. Just select the bone, navigate to Bone tab and check where she connected. Now it's left to connect our cloth mesh. Select it and go to Object Constraints tab. Select Child of Constraint, select Armature, and pick the bone. Click Set Inverse, and we are done. The main reason of this technique is that she doesn't afraid any scaling, and provides ability to edit base mesh to fix clipping, or something else based on your problem. The next video is about cloth simulation over this, with lots of explaining, and would be ready as soon as it would be ready.